I don't know what's more confusing, learning astrology or just being a human. Moonday Musings is here to help with that. A weekly, no bullshit guide for the upcoming cosmic forecast and how you can actually use this in your real life. Hey neighbor, happy Monday, my friend, and happy Moonday. Welcome to another episode of Moonday Musings. If this is your first time here in our witchy little neighborhood, hi, welcome. I'm Danny. I'm that witch next door. I am going to be your host, your guide, your mentor, your spiritual bestie in all things modern witchcraft and cosmic living. And Moonday Musings is all about talking about the upcoming or current astrological energy and really how to lean in and work with this in our life and witchcraft practice. And this week, my friend, we have a couple of important things going on astrologically. Jupiter is starting a brand new chapter. It is finishing its cycle in Gemini and moving into Cancer. And we also have a full moon this week in Sagittarius. So if you like the sound of that, if you want to know what that means and how you can really work this in with your modern spiritual practice, keep listening. Make sure to hit the follow and subscribe button. And if you are on YouTube, make sure to give me a good old thumbs up. I do want to give a quick disclaimer for this episode, which is I am kicking the end of a cold of some type, and I very likely may cough in this episode, and I am sorry. I'm going to try to cut out as many of them as possible, but I'm sure I will inevitably have a couple in there. So just so you know. But we've got our tea, we've got our astrology, and we're ready to go. And it is the week of June 9th, 2025. And let's see here. So this Cancer journey that Jupiter is now embarking on begins today. This is Monday, June 9th. Jupiter moves in officially at 5:02 p.m. Eastern time today. Jupiter spends about a year, it's about 13 months, in each sign as it transits and travels around the zodiac. And so this means that we get a nice, almost like a nice solar cycle. It's really technically a lunar cycle because it's closer to 13 months. We get this nice celestial luminary cycle with Jupiter in each of the signs. And while Jupiter has been in Gemini, we have seen this energy very, very reflected in our mental capacities, our thinking patterns and habits. This has been a time very, very reflective of a lot of being prone to and tending to overthink everything. In a lot of ways, it's been this really beautiful time of really paying attention to the details. That's a really nice way to put it. It's been a great time for really paying attention to the details. This inevitably can come with, getting lost in the weeds a little bit and getting a little too hung up on the details. But this has also very likely been a time that has catalyzed a lot of people to really rethink what mental health is and means to them. This could have been a year of a lot of people really, really recognizing and having some big shifts in perspective on what our mental health is, what that means, what caring for that looks like, especially on a long-term kind of visionary level. When we talk about Jupiter in astrology being this ever expander, we can only visualize so much expansion for ourselves that we're able to let ourselves see. Now, stick with me for a second. That probably sounds a little either confusing or redundant. Jupiter is a planet that is associated with our optimism, our luck, our fortune, and our ability to grow and expand our environment and our experience for ourselves. When I first learned about this, when I was really, really, really first getting into astrology, I would find myself skipping over Jupiter because I didn't really resonate with what those key words meant for us. Because each of those words that I just used in relation to Jupiter are very subjective. And they're dependent on so many factors. I had a really hard time solidifying, like, what is the meaning? Like, what is the purpose of this planet? Like, what is the role? And it wasn't until I had really fully committed to my astrological studies. I had started working with an astrological mentor, and I was like, okay, where is this? What role does luck and optimism and fortune have in astrology? I think that in traditional astrology, there's a lot of that. But I think that when you take, and that's not a negative thing at all. It's just that when you put modern context into play here, it gets us to ask some bigger questions like, okay, well, what is luck? Because what I could consider lucky, what could be completely fortunate to me, could be something that ruins somebody else's day and what they would consider bad luck. I also, the more I study astrology and spirituality, the more I just don't believe that we are doomed to anything. And when you talk about luck, even if you're just talking about good luck, it means that some people are like blessed with it and some people are not. And that kind of a concept for me doesn't fit into my spiritual language. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't bring ends together. That doesn't make like connections happen. That like severs a lot of things for me. And so it was when I started working with Jupiter really intentionally on Thursdays, really at the advice of my mentor, I really started working with Jupiter on Thursdays because Jupiter rules Thursday. It was through that intentional one-on-one work that I realized that all of those concepts that Jupiter brings and represents are all housed in our perception and our outlook, our ability to visualize that expansion. And this is why when you hear astrologers talk about, or you read in books about Jupiter, it says that Jupiter will expand on anything that it's presented with or that it touches. So this isn't just an expander of the good, quote unquote. It'll expand the quote unquote bad as well. And this made so much sense finally once I realized Jupiter represents our perception and our outlook, because our perception, our POV, our outlook is what expands on what we're experiencing and going through in the moment. It'll expand on our emotions in that moment. This is why a really, really beautiful way to honor most of our Jupiter placements is by taking a step back and really looking at, like, am I looking at this thing through a single scope, or am I like taking the big picture into consideration? Because Jupiter is this natural planet of expansion, when we do a zoom out as well, we kind of naturally nurture our Jupiter qualities regardless of where it is in our chart in a lot of ways. And so in Gemini, while Jupiter has been in Gemini, Our perceptions, our outlook around our mental capacities, our communications and interactions. This has what's been under Jupiter's microscope this whole entire last year. And it's why you yourself, or you might know people in your life that have really made a shift in perspective, or really like dug in their heels and like refused a shift in perspective. Refused a shift in perspective. Now, as Jupiter leaves Gemini and moves into Cancer, our focus goes from the mental and air realm into the emotional water realm. And so this is why last week on our cosmic overview, we spent a lot of time talking about emotional intelligence, emotional safety, emotional health, emotional regulation as being really, really beneficial tools for everyone, regardless of your chart and your placements, to lean into during a big Cancer-y month like June is. So you want to, if you didn't already get a chance to listen to last week's Moonday episode, the cosmic energy overview for the month, you are really, really going to benefit from that. We really dive into a lot of the Cancer energy. And then in this episode, I wanted to spend a little bit of time really shining the spotlight on Jupiter for a second there. Because I think that the advice for the insight for June that we talked about last week, I think that a lot of really good seeds from this June can just kind of be planted in general for this next year ahead of Jupiter in Cancer. Now, let's get to I was going to say the star of the week, but maybe it's the other star of the week, because Jupiter moving into Cancer is definitely some main character energy. Jupiter also rules the sign Sagittarius, and lo and behold, that is where our full moon is taking place this week. So our full moon portal opens today on the 9th at 10:55 a.m. Eastern time is when the moon moves into Sagittarius, opening that full moon portal. We peak and have our full moon exact on Wednesday the 11th this week at 3:43 a.m. Eastern time. And then the full moon portal closes when it moves into Capricorn, also on Wednesday, but Wednesday evening at 9:54 p.m. Eastern. So that is our full moon window portal. Opens today, morning time, Eastern time, and then closes later in the evening hours, Wednesday, Eastern time. And I just loved that Jupiter's making an ingress on the same day that we are opening a Jupiter-ruled full moon portal. So since Jupiter rules Sagittarius, I just thought it was really astrologically beautiful that Jupiter is also making a shift on that same day. This is not cosmically on accident. We will see this chord strike of Cancer energy in this Sagittarius full moon. So I love this because for a couple of reasons. Gemini, which is where Jupiter just was, Gemini is the sign opposite Sagittarius. And so Jupiter has been opposite the sign that it rules this whole past year while it was in Gemini. And then I love that on this year's full moon in Sagittarius, it leaves and closes its time in Gemini, this opposite of the sign that it rules, and moves into Cancer. Jupiter is considered to be in exaltation in Cancer. We talk about this on last week's episode. So if you want to know a little bit more about that, I highly recommend checking out last week's episode. For my for my students and anyone that joins that witch school, you have access to my Essential Dignities bonus episode. And this goes into a detailed breakdown of each of the planet's essential dignities, meaning when a planet is in its exaltation. So we talk about Jupiter in Cancer specifically on that episode. We talk about when Venus is in Taurus, its home sign or domicile. Like we go through every single one of the major planets and what it looks like when it's in its domicile or home sign, its detriment or opposing sign that it rules, its exaltation where it's really, functioning on even more high and elevation. And then when it's in its fall and it's said to really, really struggle in that sign, we go through each one of those for each of the major planets. It is a 2+ hour bonus episode and so helpful. It lays down such helpful, cool astrological context that it's information like that when I see, oh, Jupiter's been in its detriment while it's been in Gemini this whole last year. And on the day of a Jupiter-ruled full moon portal opening, Jupiter closes its time in the sign of detriment and enters into its sign of exaltation. That's just cool. So if you are in that witch school and you have not yet listened to that Essential Dignities bonus episode, cannot recommend checking it out enough. If you are not a part of that witch school, this one measly 2-hour bonus episode is one piece of this huge treasure trove of content, of bonus episodes and resources, on top of being a part of this incredibly safe, friendly, welcoming community. It's the bee's knees, my friend. So if you love all this, you love Moonday Musings and love going deeper into all this, I cannot recommend joining that witch school enough. You can always get the information for that in the show notes below. So there is this kind of astrological poetry going on where Jupiter is closing out. I find this to be a very optimistic astrological indicator that I think that a lot of us are going to feel this door closing on some shit that we've been really working on laying to rest. I think it might, for some of us, feel like finally getting through a really, really tough time. I think for some of us, it's going to feel like I have just been like off my game and out of my element. And like, I'm starting to like, oh, this is my groove. Now I feel like I'm in my groove. That is a lot of what I see with this Jupiter into Cancer amidst full moon in Sagittarius energy. So really what this just means is that Sag being a mutable fire sign, I think that this little Jupiter in Cancer poetry just adds a little bit of more of a deeper feeling Sag energy. It like turns up the love volume button and it makes us want to play a little bit more and explore a little bit more, but like with the people that we like really love and really care about. There's definitely this like kind of emotional presence, I think, that's kind of sprinkled throughout this full moon energy this week. So here are some of my tips for this week in this astrological energy. Sag energy is a wonderful time to get yourself to try something new. I highly recommend including or inviting somebody that you love, somebody that you really enjoy, or someone you've been wanting to get to know better or been wanting to connect with a little bit more. Use that kind of camaraderie piece. I think that's going to really amp up what you get out of the experience this week. A great example of that is like sign up for a class or a workshop and invite a friend. And if you're able to, like, especially with Jupiter moving into Cancer and this being a full moon in Sagittarius, a really nice like flex move is like to sign up for the class or the workshop and just like buy the ticket for your friend and then invite them and be like, hey, do you want to do this with me? I already bought you another one. That's not possible for all of us. And for some of us, it's more realistic, more comfortable, more practical, whatever the reason is, to go in straight up halvesies or whatever. Of course. But I wanted to throw that little flare out there because that is true. This is a good, doing a little intentional gift giving right now. That type of love language during this full moon with this Jupiter and Cancer energy, it's gonna hit home. It's gonna feel real good for them, and it's probably gonna feel really good for you too. And then another fun idea. Another way that I see this full moon and Sag energy amidst Jupiter in Cancer's new chapter is I think it would be a great idea to plan a little date and invite two friends who maybe haven't met yet or have only met through you like one or two times, but you think would really enjoy each other. This is a good week astrologically for taking a little chance like that. Even if that's something that feels a little like, oh, I feel like a little scared, like a little shy, a little anxious to do that. This is a good week. That Sag fire really does help like put the fire under our butt a little bit. And I think that this is kind of a harmonious, optimistic time for that. And it's not necessarily about the outcome. So don't let it be about the outcome. These two people don't need to become lifelong besties. Whatever's meant to blossom out of it will blossom out of it. It's enough just doing that in and of itself. Just expanding your community by bringing different people together. I have to tell you on a personal level, like this is probably the most beautiful way that I have grown my own inner circles and community over the last several years, especially since starting my business. I just really lead with, like, I work with good people. I work with really, really aligned people. And that means that it's really natural and easy for different areas of my life and different people in those areas for me to be like, I just feel like you two would really love each other. And if we all just, and I have been a part of that. I've been introduced and connected with others. I've been the facilitator of connecting and introducing others many, many times over the last several years. And I have to say, some of my most fulfilling, close, special friendships have blossomed out of that. My business has not only grown, it's grown in the most beautiful way because it's just like this ripple effect of like wonderful people recommending wonderful people, connecting other wonderful people, introducing more wonderful people. It's just like the most radiant, beautiful thing. And honestly, this Sagittarius new moon with Jupiter now being in Cancer, this is a very, very optimal time for doing that, for expanding your community and your horizons in that way. And then lastly, I thought this was fun. The energy of this week is a good time for either like booking a trip far in advance if you need to, or just making the decision and like maybe laying some of the plans and groundwork. If you can't like book something right now, feasibly, logistically, financially, that's okay. Right now during this full moon is a really good time for like making a commitment, saying you're going to do it, invite somebody to do it, do a little research on the travel plans. Like this is a really good time to take even a small step of action in that way. This can be travel, like a trip, but this is Sagittarius, my friend. And if this needs to be even bigger than that, like maybe researching moving somewhere big, something you've dreamt about for a long time, but that's felt really scary and you don't know. Sagittarius full moon, Jupiter in Cancer. I'm telling you, it speaks for itself. This is an abundant time to do that. All right. I'm just got to say, all of this really sums up that a great spell and ritual right now are anything to do with like road opener spells and rituals. There are different versions of road openers in many different practices and cultures. Some have really specific and long-standing traditional practices around a road opener spell or ritual. Some are also like more intuitive, and it's more about just like the metaphor and the symbolic meaning of opening the road, removing blockages and visualizing the path ahead. But this is a really Sag energy in general, Sag transits in general. But again, Jupiter moving into Cancer this week during this full moon. This is definitely a great time for road opening energy. So if you've never done that before, this is a beautiful week for learning about that and educating yourself and like going online and going to some of your favorite accounts on YouTube or social media, and looking at anyone that's talking about this. Look at different rituals that people do. A lot of people will share like what their families and traditions have practiced for road opener spells. And again, you can take this in and do your own kind of intuitive ritual that just has the intention of opening the road ahead of you. This is a beautiful week astrologically for that type of thinking and those types of intention. But really, anything that has to do with tapping into confidence, focus, leveling up, scaling, all of these are associated with that elevated Sag energy. Well, honestly, whatever it is, the key, my friend, is make it fun. A couple of different times this week, the phrase "follow the fire" came across my path. And the first time was the wonderful Andrea Morrison of Dream Life Connection, big fan favorite here on the podcast, our dream portal instructor in that witch school, and very close, wonderful friend and colleague of mine. And we were talking about follow the fire. I have another wonderful Andrea in my life who I had a client session for, and we talked about this following the fire concept as well. And while I was working on the notes for today's Moonday episode, that follow the fire kept coming through like so naturally because of the Sagittarius energy, but so did follow the fun. Follow the fun, follow the fire, follow the fire, follow the fun. You will be glad you did, is what Sagittarius is saying. All right, my friends, we are going to take a brief moment to thank today's episode sponsor, Podzilla Productions. Podzilla Productions is my husband, Jared's podcast editing and producing company. And it is exactly why That Witch podcast has had such amazing sounding audio quality for as long as the show has been in existence. Jared has been editing, mixing, producing, working with audio for well over 17 years. And I can personally attest to the fact that he really truly is a perfectionist who takes his work very seriously. And he is dedicated to providing top quality editing services at an affordable price for those podcast hosts that maybe aren't making as much as some of the big time names out there, but are dedicated to their journey and getting their message out on their podcast. My friend, one of the biggest reasons that people don't keep up with their dream of hosting and continuing a podcast is because of issues and the commitment that it is to take on editing. Stop wasting hours trying to make yourself become a DIY editor, having to lose precious time over each editing problem that you come across in the process, and let somebody who is more experienced and frankly faster handle it, so that you can get back to focusing on what you do best, which is creating and growing your podcast without having to worry about dropping hundreds of dollars per episode to get it to sound good. You can learn more at podzillaproductions.com. You can also reach out to Jared via email. I have his contact information in the show notes below. One of the best things about going through Podzilla is if you are brand new, you don't know even where to begin with mics and equipment and recording software, Jared's got your back. He knows that stuff. You can give him your basic idea of your budget and what you're looking to do, and he will offer up recommendations based on education and experience that he has in his over 17 years of experience. So make sure that you check out podzillaproductions.com or reach out to Jared directly using his email in the show notes below. Now, we are moving into our card pull for the week. And I want you to take a moment, my friend, to kind of get resituated, reset your energy here a little bit. I want you to roll out your shoulders, maybe your neck, stretch your arms or legs if you need to. If you feel called to close your eyes and take some nice deep breaths, please allow yourself all the space that you need to cleanse your energy. You can always, available to you, pause this episode as well to really give yourself as the luxury of whatever time and space that you need to just have a moment to breathe. Sometimes the best medicine I receive all day long is the reminder that I'm allowed to pause what I'm doing for 5 minutes and take some deep breaths in that moment. So if this needs to be the reminder for you that day, for you today, please, I invite you to take it. When you're ready, I want you to open up your eyes, open up your heart and yourself to any messages, any guidance, and any insights that you may be needing or seeking at this time. So today I felt called to pulling from Rider-Waite-Smith deck as well as my musical oracles deck, or music oracles deck. This was gifted to me by my lovely sister-in-law a few years ago, I believe it's been now. And this is one of my absolute top favorite. This is one of my absolute top favorite decks that Oracle decks that I've ever worked with. So for my Rider-Waite-Smith deck this week, I'm using the Golden Universal Tarot deck. So this was actually the first deck I ever bought myself. And this is what I learned on for a long time before I got a Rider-Waite-Smith deck. I love the metallic gold foiling on basically any deck. And then the music oracles, so perfect, also has some gorgeous foiling, but it is metallic silver. So I love that we've got a little bit of silver and gold going on here. Information for both decks are in the show notes below as well. First up, out of the Golden Universal Tarot, we pulled King of Cups in reverse. Isn't it absolutely beautiful, the foiling on the card? So here's the King of Swords upright. I pulled him in reverse today. Now, I really think that this is a big play on and reflector of the reminder I've been bringing up about the importance of emotional intelligence, emotional regulation, emotional safety. And I think that pulling this card right after really going in deep into the optimism of the full moon in Sag this week, being really preceded by this Jupiter moving into Cancer ingress, I think that this is a pretty big, heavy, important reminder about that quality of Jupiter I was talking about our perception right now and how easily influenced we are by our emotional experience. Our perception is made up of many different things. What we're seeing actually going on around us, what we've learned in the past or experienced in relation to this in the past, and how we're feeling. And in a lot of ways, we are supposed to find some sort of balance and harmony amidst all of these different factors that impact our perception, to have as close to a grip on reality essentially as possible. And our emotional experience can be one of the biggest indicators of what is really going on in reality, or a hard opposite of that. Sometimes our emotions and our emotional experience have us feeling way fucking off base what's actually happening right in front of us. Sometimes what's logically happening in front of us seems and theoretically should be okay. And something in our emotional experience and how we're feeling is indicating that's not. And this is when our emotions bring us truth and why our emotions matter and are so, so valid. Getting King of Cups reversed is a reminder to be aware of emotional insecurity, and emotional instability is a big one outside of us. And do not forget to reflect that examination right back within yourself. It is a twofold examination, because extreme emotional instability and insecurity outside of you right now is not going to be doing you any favors. And pointing the finger at that and refusing to do any of the self-examination around that is only going to lead to you essentially being the King of Cups reversed, my friend. So this is why, once again, it just feels like, don't forget about emotional intelligence skills, emotional safety, emotional regulation, and emotional coping skills right now. Because again, regardless of how you feel about water and emotional energy, whether you feel really comfortable with that or really, really overwhelmed by that, again, this is kind of universal medicine we're talking about when we're talking about healthy emotional regulation, emotional safety, and emotional intelligence. Now, do you want to hear the music oracle that I pulled? Because it's really cool. I got this deck at least 3 years ago, like I said. I think it's 4 years ago, but it's at least 3 years ago. And I thought this was really, really cool considering our most recent Super Bowl halftime show, because we pulled none other than the iconic Kendrick Lamar. And again, this deck came out long before this previous incredible Super Bowl halftime show and performance. So let's read what the reading is from the Music Oracle's guidebook here on Kendrick Lamar. So here's what I love about this deck. It gives you a little bio on the artist themselves. And then on each card, there is a little phrase of attitude, lifestyle, and inspiration to take away from the card. Okay. So Kendrick Lamar's bio here in the Music Oracle's guidebook says, Kendrick Lamar is the most vital, audacious, and musically ingenious hip-hop star of his generation. The first musician from outside the classical or jazz traditions to be awarded the Pulitzer Prize for Music, Lamar has been described as the poet laureate of hip-hop, a mesmerizing talent and de facto moral compass who describes the experience of being young, Black, poor, and gifted with remarkable candor and self-awareness. His music combines lyrical inventiveness and melodic flair. He produces panoramic soundscapes that fuse jazz, soul, and psychedelic influences with exhilarating mutant, funk, and time-shifting rhythms to create a multi-layered and devastatingly honest sonic portrait of African American life in a time of crisis. And this was written years ago. I love it. Okay, so what is the advice of the Kendrick Lamar card? It's attitude message. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. Yes. The message of attitude to keep in mind is become the cure, not the symptom. Become the cure, not the symptom. Okay. Lifestyle insight. Don't demand respect, command it. I love this deck. Do you see why? And then lastly, inspirational insight. You can be broke without being broken. I love that the Kendrick Lamar card has a completely red, literal flames and fire background. This is beautiful. This is powerful. I love the reading from this week, and this has been one of my favorite Moonday Musings episodes ever, by far. My friend, thank you for your time today and every day. It means so much to me to get to spend this time with you. Thank you. I can't wait to see you again this week for our next episode of That Witch podcast. Until then, my friend, make sure that you are out there staying safe, letting yourself follow the fun, and of course, stay magical, my friend. What is That Witch School? That Witch School is my magical monthly membership that combines safe, welcoming, nurturing community with quality, ethical witchcraft and astrology education. This is like Patreon meets social media, but better. We have monthly calls hosted and guided by myself, as well as multiple instructors within our school. An incredibly beautiful and supportive community of like-minded witches, all built from the neighbors within our neighborhood right here. Plus, there is a just astounding library of resources and content that is always growing, and so much more. You can go back and listen to my episode on the podcast called Welcome to That Witch School 2025 for all kinds of details and information on the membership, the different plans you can subscribe for, pricing, and frequently asked questions, everything that you need to know. Or you can always send me a direct message or email if you ever have any questions. You can get my contact information in the show notes below. And when you're ready to join us, you can go to thatwitchschool.com and find the plan that works for you and join our magical community today.